to talk about. Margie, if you can see on the toolbar on the right-hand side the Roll20 icon, if you click on that, it'll open up the Roll20. You're the only one that's not actually logged in there, so you wouldn't see like the character sheets and stuff. But if you look, I'll wait for you to do that before we get rolling. Or maybe I won't. Is it working for you, Margie? She might have stepped away.
She's muted at the moment.
Yeah. Oh.
Nope, I'm good.
Okay. Can you? Are you able to open up the Roll20 app? Because I'm gonna.
Yes, I think.
So on the left-hand side where the little toolbar is, there you go. Yay, there you are. Sweet. Okay, so if you look at the chat log window thingy, Bill put up a lovely little summary of the, did I do 6? 6 available characters. I don't know why I did 6. Anyway.
Variety.
That
We might hate one of them gravely.
What's that?
So we may hate one of them gravely.
Yeah, it could be, yeah. You gotta have that. Anyway, so the gig tonight is that we're gonna do, you know, I want to kind of play around with this slightly alternative version of the character stats, character sheets, I guess. Same mechanics and everything. We're just going to do things a little bit differently. There's been a lot of noodling and chatting about it and whatnot. And rather than worry about hacking up our characters and fiddling with that, although I think that's probably something that needs to happen. I think there's a few aspects and stuff like that on our main characters that we're not getting full mileage out of, but that's a lawn to mow another day. I figured it. Well, actually, it was Bill's idea. Was to, you know, let's just do a different group and have them hand stuff back off. So, in Bill's little chat window here, we have he put up like a nice little one-line summary of the various characters. And if you look at the character sheet section, which is that second tab up there, and looking characters, I put them up there too, and there's little pictures to go with people and stuff. I wrote them up as much as obviously the pictures are gendered, but I wrote them up as much as possible to be like flexible. So
yeah, that's funny because I interpreted Drala as female from the.
Right, and you totally could. I use they a lot in that one. Yeah. Hesmet could be a guy or a girl. I just grabbed pictures, and I don't know that you could really tell. I mean, for all I know, Tordarians could be like dwarves, and you really can't tell the difference between two of them. You know, Ghana could just easily be a guy. I just grabbed pictures, so don't take that as gospel in any case. So I don't know, Kay and Margie, if you guys were looking at the thing, but the basic idea. Let's just take a look at the captain here, and I'm going to share my thing here, my screen. Do a screen share so we can see this because it's kind of interesting, I think. So what we're doing with this is basically getting rid of approaches. That's the short version. Also trying a lot harder with my fate points to actually beat on you guys. That's the other part of it. I'm trying to get a sense of whether or not I should just drop stress, but for right now I'm not doing that. So the basic idea, since we're getting rid of approaches, is that we're ranking the aspects, and there is no zero aspect, but they all have some kind of numeric rating that you should kind of look at as almost like a mini character class. So you have like skills that come along with that. And some of them may not be a full kind of mini character class, but there'll still be situations where you would roll that. So this captain is a little bit weird, and I'm flexible. I don't care if you guys are like, I don't really know what to do with this one aspect. Can I please rewrite it? That's totally fine. I don't care. So basically, the aspects are just like you would normally use aspects. But in addition to that, you would roll them as skills, and you don't have to spend fate points to roll them as skills. So if you're doing, making a plan or something, and you want to roll to, figure out how to take all this information and come up with a, see where the good idea is for a plan, you'd roll, don't worry, I've got a plan, and add 2. If you want to then bump it, and you think that the most appropriate aspect to bump it with is still, don't worry, I've got a plan, throw a fate point at it, and you still get the +2 from that. It's always a +2 if you spend a fate point on it. It's not shaped by whatever rank you've got in the aspect. Stunts are just like normal. Stress is just like normal. And the reason I'm fiddling with this is because I have this feeling that you end up with the aspects, or the approaches almost being like additional aspects that change potentially the tone of the character that I don't know. It just felt fiddly to me, and I'm always scratching my head trying to figure out what thing makes the most sense to roll. So we're going with this and seeing how it works. The basic setup is that you guys are part of a team of resistance fighters, not rebels, resistance fighters on the planet of Onderon, who are going to be on sent on a mission by the head of the resistance, one Saw Gerrera, who, if you've watched up through like season 4 of the Clone Wars, you'd know him as he was as like a 17-year-old kid, and now he's obviously older and more grizzled and bitter and cynical and that sort of thing, but still leading the Onderon resistance fighters. Onderon is a bit of a crazy place because it's sophisticated, it's an inner rim world, and it has been occupied. It's like Poland. It's been occupied by somebody else for the lion's share of its relatively recent history. They didn't like being in the Republic, so they tried to side with the Separatists, and then the Separatists just occupied them, so they decided they wanted to get away from that, so they fought the Separatists, and then as soon as they got away from the Separatists, they joined the Republic, and about 2 months after they joined the Republic, the Palpatine made himself Emperor, and then the Emperor came in and immediately occupied the planet again. So there's always been resistance fighters, like for the last 30 years, resisting somebody. To various degrees of success on the planet. The funny thing is, even though they're not directly allied with the rebellion, they've been fighting the Empire longer than the rebels have. They've been fighting the rebellion or the Empire almost from day one. That's part of the funny part. The other funny part is that these guys are kind of like, I keep likening them to like the rebels in Afghanistan or something like that, or Nicaragua, because when they were dealing with the Clone Wars, the Republic didn't have the manpower to like fight on another front, so they didn't send manpower to Onderon. They just snuck a couple Jedi in and trained these guys to fight better and how to kill droids and stuff. So the huge irony, and the person who came up with this idea was Anakin Skywalker, so the huge irony of these resistance fighters on Onderon, they were giving the Empire such a headache and have for literally over a decade, is that they were trained by Vader to be a thorn in the side for somebody else, and now they're causing the Empire agita. So you guys are part of that group, not technically rebels. And there's stuff going on. So that gives you the basic idea. And as I already mentioned to Bill and Mike, the premise of this is of this particular little scenario is leverage by way of, not really leverage, but the Italian Job by way of Star Wars. Kind of the Italian Job. Anyway, it's a caper movie by way of Star Wars. I'm not saying I was inspired by Rogue One, but boy, that movie looks good. Looks like it. Anyway, now I'm going to stop screen sharing and go back to the way it was. Here we go. Okay. So, as I mentioned, we've got the guys up there. Bill summarized stuff a little bit. We've got the characters in the character thing if you guys want to look at them. We've got the captain, the veteran captain of many, many clashes, the sly rogue who's sort of, silver-tongued as well as good at smacking people from the shadows. the resentful, not exactly ex-imperial. He's like forced into servitude for the Empire while his family is in a concentration camp, basically. The
It's hard to capture that in
Toydarian.
a pithy phrase, though. So
What's that?
it's hard to capture that in a pithy phrase.
It really is, yeah. The Toydarian scoundrel. Have I got a deal for you? That's actually how the women sound. No, I'm kidding. No idea. The thrill-seeking mercenary changeling, and the force-sensitive mechanic. Gadgeteer, whatever you want to call her. So, now that we are sitting here and can throw virtual rotten tomatoes at each other for jumping in too fast, who wants to call dibs on stuff?
Dibs on the boom guy.
Oh, you want to blow stuff up?
Yes.
Private Hesmant with a chip on his shoulder?
Mm-hmm.
I am both gratified and terrified that that you're interested. Anybody else?
I'm probably going to pick last, so everybody else should go ahead.
Okay. Well, technically Dave's going to pick last because he can't be here for like another hour.
I'm going to pick last of whoever's here. So.
Okay, that's fair.
Catherine, do you have a preference?
Nope.
Oh, come on.
So I was looking either at Drala or Novar.
Navarre's fun. They're both fun. I mean, they both got a lot going for them.
I don't know that I can keep up the accent all night.
Well, that's fair. Nobody's going to
Still, stop bleeding on me.
stop bleeding on me. But yeah, I mean, you don't. You're not. You don't need to be held to that, certainly. You know, they're fun. They've got a lot of. They're all very sneaky, and that's kind of intentional. Everyone's got a little. Well, okay, except for the boss. You know, kind of. Certainly, quite a few of them have a knack for it. Navarre is sort of what I think of as sort of the irritating elf. You know.
Still the prettiest.
Well, yeah. And it's actually from the elf. There's the sort of fake card set that's like, you know, it's not my fault, or it's not my fault, I'm fantastic. The default elf stunt in there is the literally superior thing, where it's like if somebody else fails, I can try and get a +2 just to show them up.
Yeah.
It can be, like, as Bill said, very Star Warsy, because it's like, you know, you try to pick it, the door closes, so you just shoot, the other guy steps up and shoots the lock. It totally works. And of course, the shape shifting of the Claudites is fun too. So I don't know. I'm not going to be any help. I think they're both cool. So, or cool enough.
You should have created some boring characters so that this would be.
No. Well, I didn't give any back. I like that. I was kind of thinking about this afterwards. I didn't give any background to Private. Like none. Like, she's got aspects and that's it. But I mean, the cynic of me is like, she's like the only Force user. What the hell does she need a background for? Whoever wants to play a Force user is going to jump at that no matter what anyway.
So if Catherine's not wanting to go there, I will pick Novar.
Okay. We have. I will fiddle with the ownership. Well, actually, I'll fiddle with the ownership while I'm doing this. Catherine, Bill said he's called dibs on going last, so you have to like jump in here and figure out something. So we have the demolitionist, we have the shapeshifter. We have the hothead who likes to blow stuff up. That is a really bad combination. Get Margie in here. Whoop, whoop, easy there.
It's a sort of group where you have distinct roles of both rogue and scoundrel.
Yeah, there's the rogue is the sneaky, and the scoundrel is the con artist. I think. I mean, yeah, the Claudite's actually better at faking people out than sneaking. You'd think they'd be very good at both, and isn't actually. I mean, you can do, actually very good at disappearing in a crowd. Not so good at just like storming the castle in the shadows kind of thing.
Well, you know,
I
their
was
wings
looking
make
at
noise.
Drala.
Drala? So we've got, okay. Let me just,
You just want to fly.
who doesn't want to fly? The little bee thing. All right, I'll assign you. Okay, so those of you who have picked people, you can, if you want, edit the character sheet. If you want to tweak one of the aspects or anything like that, by all means do that. So we have Private Hesmet, no boom today, boom tomorrow. Earth-shattering kaboom as a stunt. You just want to be as destructive as Margie usually is in the other game.
Without demolition.
Who would want that? I mean,
All right. So, Bill, what do you think?
I'm kind of accustomed to playing the captain type,
Okay.
so that's kind of my default position. I'll take that if it's all right.
That's totally fine. Let me
oh, Captain, my Captain.
let me get him edited over so you can fiddle with him. I'm not at all sure. Well, Ghana's not here, so I would definitely have you take a really close look at that fifth aspect of his. And if you guys want to tweak values, I was thinking about just leaving the values off and letting you guys set them. But if you want to adjust the values around, by all means do that. But I know what Private Ghana is better than she does. She's not active right now, so that's a really not a great aspect right now. So by all means, fiddle with that.
Yeah, I'm thinking about it.
I'm gonna go give lithium milk bones to my dogs real quick, and I'll be right back. You guys take a look at your guys, and we'll get going here.
So these are supposed to be 32211, right?
That's correct.
Okay, so one of my aspects is off.
Oh yeah, you've got 3 1s.
Yep.
Huh.
You might have just not finished allocating points there.
You're subpar.
Thank you. Can't remember how to get to the edit part.
I don't have the edit, so
Okay, well,
I don't think he finished or.
Barking and everything. All right. Any questions, queries, fiddling?
I think Margie had a question.
Yes. She also might have stepped away.
But I know I can't edit my character sheet yet.
Oh, so maybe. Okay, hang on a sec. Let me. In players. Oh, can't. Sorry, my bad. Margie. That one. Drala. I added to the completely redundantly to the list of people who can see it, and you already could.
got it.
Hesmet can be edited by Mike. And the captain can be edited by Bill. Bill?
Why is my character sheet in German?
Oh, don't look at the character sheet. I had hopes. It looked like when I was looking at screenshots of the various sort of pre-generated character sheets that were in there that one I might be able to you might be able to like hand write in the names of the approaches, which would be cool because then you can put the aspects in the approach slot and just roll them like we've been doing. But it doesn't work. So I grabbed it just for the hell of it. So you just ignore that. We're gonna use so and Bill, you should be able to edit yours now.
I just did.
And
Welcome
I
to the
did mine
jungle.
also.
That's perfect because Onderon's a jungle. Welcome to the jungle. Survival skills. Thumbs
Well,
up.
I'm also going for this whole Colonel Kurtz kind of angle.
Yes.
Colonel Kurtz, what is that? Remind me.
Heart of Darkness / Apocalypse Now.
Oh God. Oh God.
Marlon Brando.
Oh God.
I, on the other hand, was just making sure that I had, didn't have 3 1s for my.
No, the stats are actually in the bio there.
No, but you had me as.
Did
You
I
had
have
me
you?
as. Yeah, you had a 3, a 2, and 3 1s. So I fixed that.
Well, you get to fly. No, I'm kidding.
I don't get to fly.
Oh, you're not the
I get to
Targaryen.
shoot.
Oh, I had you with 3 1s as Eric?
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, that's because I was fiddling. Yeah, because the two-faced thing was actually the trouble aspect for a while. It really kind of is anyway, but I am going to compel the hell out of I want to be remembered. Can't do anything quite subtly. Who else needs fate points? Me. I need fate points. I need all the fate points. And Catherine and Marge need 1. So undo that too. All right, got that sorted out. If you guys go to the little gear icon there in the top of your sidebar, if you look, the very first thing up there in the gear thing should be macros for like 40F, 40F plus 1, 40F. I would, since we don't have the cool character sheet ability to roll, I would, if I were you, check a few more of these, like the plus 1, plus 2, plus 3, plus 4, so that they show up on your window. Makes it a little bit easier. And for total flexibility, the 40F plus question mark lets you roll and add whatever you need to roll, whatever you need to add to it, so that makes it a little bit easier. I wanted to do it on the character sheet, but honestly, the macros are good enough to get it all done. Okay, so where were we? Any other questions? I mean, you guys have replayed enough stuff here. You know, like if you think you should have stuff, odds are you probably have that stuff. And that's about it. Any other questions? We're probably, I would guess, I would be surprised if we wrap this up in one session, but I could be wrong. Who knows? Uh-oh, now people are chatting.
No, it's just, no, I was just...
Oh, you're testing the, oh my God. What a terrible roll.
Yeah, I think I might have to re-roll that.
Yeah, you might.
There we go, that's better.
It is better. Okay. When we last left our, wait a minute, I can't do that. Okay. Onderon, Jungle Planet. Sophisticated yet constantly at war with itself. The background image that we have here on the desktop that we're sharing, that we're looking at, is the capital of Onderon and the Royal Palace, which is, unfortunately, currently occupied by the Grand Moff of the sector 1... Dardano, Grand Moff Dardano, Moff of the Japrail sector of the Inner Rim. So, you guys are called in. What's the name of your squad, Captain? What's the name of your squad? What's the code name for your squad?
I almost wanted to just say Easy Company, but...
Easy Company? That's... okay.
No. We would probably just use numbers. We're going to say a Squad 37.
Squad 37. That's a lot
Whiskey
of squads.
Tango.
Whiskey Tango. Whiskey Tango Foxtrot.
There's SEAL Team 6. There's not 6 SEAL teams.
Yeah, you know. 37 means something else. Okay. the resistance on Onderon has been dealing with the Imperial. Okay, first, I'm going to back up. It is 18 months prior to the events that we have recently witnessed on Tatooine with our erstwhile heroic rebel squadron. So it's a year and a half ago. So it's, what is it, 5.5 years before Yavin, and been 14 years since the Empire was officially named the Empire, and in that 15 years, 13 of them have involved the Empire occupying Onderon due to its valuable position in the Inner Rim. It sits near 2 major hyperspace lanes, apparently a ton of different Imperial outposts, way stations, being as it's in the Inner Rim. It's probably the most Imperial occupied planet in the core, Inner Rim, and colonies outside of Coruscant. And certainly the most occupied by Imperial troops in terms of like occupied for the purposes of control. Partly because of you guys, partly because of the hostile resistance. People who just can't seem to let go of and the way it's painted in the press and that sort of thing is that you guys are people who just can't let go of the old Republic and the old ways. You're painted as, backwards, highly conservative, pro-Republic terrorists. When it's got nothing to do with the Republic. You guys came to the Republic late, and as soon as you did, everything went terrible. So it's really not about that. You're brought in to meet with the head of the Resistance, which is a fairly rare thing, although you guys are veteran enough that it has happened, and you know him well enough. Saw Gerrera, who's been in charge of the Resistance back since the Clone Wars. Saw's a guy in his 40s, pretty bitter, lost his sister in the Clone Wars, who at that point in time was actually running the Resistance. He's seen a lot, and he doesn't. Couple things Saw doesn't like. He doesn't like Jedi. Doesn't like Force users. Really doesn't like droids. Not a big fan of
I think it would be easier if you went the opposite direction.
Yeah, what does he like? He likes loyal Resistance guys. So he likes the captain here. He likes Treb. They're not exactly drinking buddies, but they've got I would say, at least he has shows a healthy mutual respect for him. He gives people like Private Hesmond a lot of loose rope to work with, which is not probably the thing that Hesmond needs, because Hesmond likes to blow people up if they're wearing like buckets on their heads. So but one thing he is absolutely dedicated to is the idea that you fight the enemy, not their people. And one of the things he's absolutely dedicated to is no civilian casualties. He's tried in the past to like do pirate broadcasts and stuff like that to the planet. It doesn't work very well because he's not really a face person. But he's never been the kind of person that could lead a rebellion by being the face person that everyone's going to rally behind outside of the Resistance. But as a general, as a commander, he's top notch. So, which he would have to be because you guys are like woefully outgunned and outmanned most of the time. One of the things, and I don't know how you think about this, but one of the things, and both Eric and Drala are somewhat evidence of this. Eric more than the other is that the Resistance has started to address its problem with manpower by hiring mercenaries. There's still some funding coming in, dribs and drabs here and there. Nobody really knows where the money's coming from, but there are mercenaries being hired. So Eric's sort of one of those. Drala, not so much. Drala's here because Drala owes Treb a big debt and apparently still hasn't paid it off yet. So that's why Drala's involved. But there's a surprising number of aliens in the resistance forces on Onderon at this point in time. One of the ones that's particularly close to Saw, which isn't the best thing right now, is a Lasat mercenary who's got a reputation for being extremely bloodthirsty when it comes to the stormtroopers. It could be, I mean, the rumor is the Lasat homeworld was wiped out, and there is nearly genocide, practically genocide for all intents and purposes. So when he's got a chance, he will always kill rather than capture. And he's kind of really close to Saw in terms of advising and stuff like that, so that's maybe a little bit worrisome. Anyway, that's not relevant. I'm just kind of giving you guys some background so you know what's going on there. Okay. Coming up to, he brings you in, and you're in kind of a, let me grab it here actually, since I can. A base out in the jungle. You brought into one of the, sort of the main, I'm going to say hut. That's kind of a little bit more humble than it really is, but whatever. Fine. Why isn't that? Oh, I see. Okay. And he nods to everybody. He pays a little bit more attention to Treb. Thank you guys. Thank you for coming. Got a mission for 37 that I think might be, well, it's more up your alley than anything else. As you know, Empire Day is coming. It's a day off from here. And we're going to make use of that in a way that we haven't in the past. Your experience with Empire Day in the past has been, they do parades and stuff, and those are fun things to sabotage. Fun things to blow up, fun things to sabotage, certainly, and stuff like that. No, we're going a different route with this one. Here's the thing. I've had some hackers working on what records we can get our hands on with the Grand Moff, and to a lesser extent the Admiral. So, again, background stuff. You've got the Moff, who's like the assigned Imperial governor for the sector, but then you also usually have a military admiral who's controlling all the Imperial forces directly in the area. And the authority of those two guys, sometimes they work in unison, sometimes they're practically the same guy, like Moff Tarkin, who has a real reputation for that kind of stuff because he was a general, was an admiral, back in the Clone Wars. And then you have, other situations. Sometimes they're sparring, they're working together. Sometimes they're vying for control. The understanding in this area is that the Admiral and the Moff do not get on at all, and they are, constantly sort of, vying for influence because you're so close to the inner rim. It's such a potentially important assignment that they're apparently neither one really willing to share that kind of stuff. So we've been paying. And we're cutting back over to in-character. We've been paying as much attention as we can and trying to get some information out of the communications that the Grand Moff. And we thought we had kind of an in. We actually were starting to get into some pretty secure communications. And we have found some stuff. But what we're finding is raising more questions than answering anything. And that's sort of a problem, and we want to get closer to an actual answer that we can make use of. So, actually, let me see if I can find it. This is the image I'm thinking. Yeah, there we go. We'll use this. We'll just drop this in here. So there's an image coming up on the desktop, hopefully. There we go. So this is kind of the area where out in the middle of the jungle where the current rebel base is at and all that kind of stuff. Just to give you guys a visual. Anyway, so here's the deal. What's that?
It's geologically unstable, I can tell.
Sure. Okay.
You just drag an image around. That's...
Yeah. I see what you're saying. So here's the deal. The Grand Moff, he says like this, has been moving funds around in a way that seems to indicate that he's trying to hide the movement of quite a little bit of funds away from the official channels and tracking and keeping them away from the public eye. Now, it's the Empire. Of course they're doing that. That wouldn't be that surprising, but what we've actually figured out is that he's not just hiding this stuff from us or from the proper Onderon government that's still kind of nominally in place in lots of places. He's hiding it from the Empire. That really interests me. And I definitely want to find out why. I don't know whether he's building himself a summer home or keeping an extremely needy mistress or something. It seems like something that we can use against him, and I want to find out more.
Excessive?
It's excessive. It's a fair chunk of change, and he apparently wants to keep it completely under the radar from literally everybody. So I want to find out more about that, and I want you to find it out for me. Specifically, I want you to go to the Empire Day ball that he's holding at the palace in 2 days. So, because the only way, according to our slicers, that we're going to be able to get in and get the rest of this information is we need access to his personal terminal in his office suite. We get in there and access that, we should be able to figure out the stuff that he's not sending anywhere that's going to actually tell us what the heck is going on here. My hope is we can use it, that it's actually useful information. And our best chance at getting in there is when there's a bunch of people who shouldn't be in the building that are in the building under invitation. So that's what we're going to do. And I'm going to send you guys because heavens help us, you are the most subtle people that we have in a squad altogether.
Nice.
It says nothing good about me as a leader, I think, that's the case, but it is. So, I am going to do the best possible thing I can in this situation and get completely out of your way, leave it up to you, provide you with what funds we have available, which isn't much, and let you figure out, Treb, what you guys are going to do to solve to get in there and get me the information I need. You will, of course, be disavowed, blah, blah, blah. No, none of that. Whatever. If they catch you, they catch you, and we'll try to get you back out again, but you know what kind of luck we've had with that in the past, so don't get caught. Try not to draw too much attention to yourself unless you're on the way out, in which case kill as many bucketheads as you can. That's entirely up to you. It doesn't have to be pretty, but if you do want to ever sneak back into the capital city again, maybe don't let them know that this is the face that went along with whatever it is that you guys do. So figure this out.
What face?
Excellent point. Sure, fine. It matters to some people, Eric, sorry. So
you can't even remember my name.
Fine. So he ushers you out, and you guys can head back to whatever your little probably your little meeting tent is for just your unit or whatever, or wherever you find that would be more appropriate.
Tree.
Your tree, your personal team tree, and there's a shuttle that is being made available to you to get you to the capital, because his assumption is that you're not going to do much prep work out here in the jungle. You're going to want to get into the city and hook up with contacts or whatever as quick as you can. But I figured to let you guys kind of work it out and figure out what the plan is first, and then go from there.
Okay. And did you start recording before or after we picked characters, by the way?
Before.
Okay.
So everybody knows, and if you want, and I highly, actually, kind of recommend this. It's kind of handy, since we're playing weird people, like our non-normal people. If you guys go to the Hangout toolbox, which is another one of those little things on the sidebar there, if you go to the Hangouts toolbox and click on the first tab at the top, you can put in your name in the top bar and put in like your character's name in the second bar and turn it on, and then you get a little thing. So that way we at least know who you is and stuff. That'll help kind of. You see it? Are you getting it?
It's not working for me.
You have to. Okay, so you put the name in. You put the.
Oh, wait.
And then you have to do the little on like toggle. It's in the kind of.
No, the actual thing isn't opening up.
Ew. The toolbox thing?
Yeah.
Do you still have it open from before?
No. Error loading your app.
Oh, that's annoying. Well, we'll limp along without it for you, I guess. And Margie, I don't think yours will work unless you have your camera on.
Okay.
I think that was something I ran into before, where I was just like, I wasn't sharing the camera and it wouldn't show up the little bar. So that is what it is. It's no big deal.
I'll do it this way.
Turn your icon into a person. Anyway. All right. So, Treb.
Mm-hmm.
You guys are sitting there in a tree kind of staring at each other. A Toydarian, a Claudite, a demolitionist with a penchant for explosions, and you're supposed to be subtle. If you have questions about, I mean, the Toydarian is going to draw some attention, but it's not like he's known as a resistance fighter. It's not like aliens are unknown on Onderon, so it's not like he can't be at the party or something like that. So.
Okay. So so the place that we're trying to break into, I'm just going to call like the palace if we have a better name.
If you look at the desktop, if you look at the wallpaper, it's that building.
That's the impression I'm getting. Is it looks palatial.
Yeah, it's definitely a palace. You're talking about a big grand ballroom, and if you want to get a general idea, I mean, you could certainly scope the thing out. That would probably be a really good idea in terms of trying to figure out. Get into the city, try to find a map of the place. Actually, the slicers here might be able to get you at least a general schematic of the place. It's not like the palace hasn't been around for a really long time. People know how it's laid out.
But I also assume that they've made internal changes.
Sure.
They've fortified it.
More likely, I mean, it's always been fortified, but more likely what you're not going to know off of Wikipedia is the security, where the current security stations are. But, I mean, getting into the party should be easy. Getting from the party into the restricted areas of the building is going to be way harder because that's going to be specifically what they're watching for. You're going to have to worry about guards watching people. Getting into obviously the Moff suite is going to be challenging depending on how you decide to do it.
Well, I would suggest the sort of no one looks at the help approach for at least some initial reconnaissance. There's got to be a staff of hundreds in there.
Oh yeah.
That we could associate with and
a lot of new help, given that there's a party.
Yeah.
Yes.
Certainly, there's going to be locals. Yeah, I mean, there's a good argument for being able to be being one of the last minute, maybe not waiters, but kitchen staff. Things like that. That's one way in. Coming in through the front door is one way in. Scaling the walls, not impossible. Maybe a little
not
bit.
Preferred.
I just totally realized who I should have used for Treb. I should have used the dad from Supernatural. He would have been perfect. If you guys if you watch Supernatural, like the two guys' dad, who's like in the first couple of seasons, he'd have been perfect for Treb. Anyway, doesn't really matter.
One other question: if some other insurgent group on the planet was planning to have a bombing on Empire Day, would we likely know about it?
Yes. Saw is at the top of the pyramid for this, so he's not going to have. I mean, he's going to be waving people off of the party, and generally speaking, his normal modus operandi is definitely going to be sabotage of the parade. Bombs at the parade, not good. Bombs at this party, not good, because again, we don't hurt civilians, and there's a lot of civilians at these kind of things. Granted, probably Imperial sympathizers, but he's never been the sort of person who's been like, well, they like the Empire, so let's kill him.
Yeah.
He's, you know, there are worse generals to work for, certainly.
Okay.
So yeah, Grand Moff Dardano. He's going to have, well, we can get you in the city and have you start making some research stuff and casing the joint and profiling it and all that kind of good stuff to figure out what else. But if you want anything from here, I don't know. Mostly they'll send you with credits so you can find what you need to find when you're in the city in terms of like, I need a monkey suit. Okay, we'll get you a monkey suit. Toydarian monkey suit. That's why I got that's why the Toydarian picture I grabbed looks so nicely dressed. He's not all scruffy. Or she isn't. It isn't. It.
Cool.
All right. So heading into the city?
Yep.
Okay. Any particular place or contacts, or and this anybody can jump in on this, that you want to immediately hole up with or make contact with once you get into the city?
I think we need to get somewhere within visual distance of the palace, especially the servants' entrance or the equivalent.
Sure.
I want to get a good feel for the rhythm and the tempo of operations here, and I want to get a good collection of faces.
So does Margie.
Well, that's what this that
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very good. Okay, let me grab something here real quick. Image. There we go. I'm dropping another picture into Roll20 here for us too, just to give you a sense of really kind of where you immediately sort of, I don't want to say dump out into in the market. But there's like sort of the square that's right up. I mean, that gives you I think a good sense of how close you can get to the palace even today without it being particularly. I mean, you can get closer, but you can see kind of here where the I'm assuming that ping showed up, like where the patrol tanks or anything. Anything past that point, people are going to start giving you hairy eyeballs. But you can get up in buildings to get a good look at things. You can certainly get different angles on the palace to get an idea of like what kind of activity is around the servants' interest, how many people are coming or going, what the security is, what the security is like, and all that kind of stuff. I would like to know what everybody's doing in terms of sort of the profiling of the target or preparation or something like that, and you know, just getting a general idea of what everybody's doing so I can start giving you information. What do you think?
I think the overall, version of the plan that we are probably going to go with, or that seems likeliest to work for us, is going to involve some kind of demolition and some kind of distraction. And it also seems like you don't need to steal the data set so much as just get access to it, right? His personal terminal?
Yeah. I mean, you need to get in there. I mean, it helps if you get in, really. The problem is you kind of need to get pretty physically close to it, because if it was able to be gotten to remotely, they would have done it already.
Yeah. So if we were able to get someone in there either while the Grand Moff is out, or even better, get someone in there that he thinks he can trust. Then, as long as we're just kind of hanging out, everything's fine.
So you can start to get a general idea of. I mean, it's also useful to get a general idea of who's the second in command, what other Imperials might be around.
Yeah, well, I was going to say this leads me to the next question, which is, can we get a good idea of his general staff, and also can we get a good idea of the admiral's staff?
Right, because the admiral will probably be here just because it's Empire Day and this is the main planet in this area, and.
Yeah.
I'm going to be looking more at the level of, household staff, personal assistants and that sort of thing.
Okay, so you probably got yourself up in you found
I have a waiter's costume.
Yeah.
Whatever the equivalent of the black suit, black tux,
Right now, you're kind of like up on like a third floor patio of a fairly expensive restaurant, sipping a really charming, if impudent, little local wine at the railing that looks down over the courtyard around the palace, and just watching the comings and goings of all these people and making particular note of, if there's a major domo or the head of the kitchen staff or whatever who seems to be bossing things around, second in commands, that kind of thing, at that level, so you can start to figure out who to get into. It's also possible, I mean, people, and a little bit trickier for you, Margie, but some of you, Mike, you're an example, you might know local people who can I know my uncle's one of the people who's supplying wait staff for this thing, so I can get you in, that kind of stuff. So that's also an option. Demolition's probably likely to come up. It makes a better exit than an entrance, but certainly useful. As I realize I'm sharing my game notes there. Crazy.
There's all kinds of ways to use it. For example, a bomb scare in the palace will trigger a lot of security protocol, but if we somehow got ourselves in as security for the Grand Moff, we have every reason to be in his private quarters.
Absolutely.
Stuff like that.
Well, and if you can figure out, if you can get an idea what the protocol is for certain kinds of things, you can make that thing happen and then flow with what's supposed to be happening. Nobody's going to pay any attention to guards that are doing what they're supposed to be doing when something bad happens.
Yeah, well, that's a question then. Does the insurgency have ex-palace guards or anything like that in its membership?
Ooh, that is a good question. Ex-palace guards, probably, yes. I don't know about recent, but
that's fine.
Certainly there are some that, and you could definitely get some information. A couple of them are probably in the city too. It's been damnably difficult to get actual people from the insurgency in the Moffs. You can get low-level people in. You probably have a couple of like maids and stuff like that around, but it's really hard to get anybody important in there, partly because he keeps using off-world for everything, like of any kind of importance. All the guards are stormtroopers. The Moff's got 200 troopers on planet, one TIE fighter squadron, handful of shuttles, a handful of ATDPs, like basically AT-ATs, or ATSTs, I should say, and a handful of troop transports. He doesn't have a ton of stuff. He has the maximum that a Moff can have for one, for on-planet support, but he doesn't get any kind of leeway on that because the Admiral is right here and can certainly support him if you have some other difficulty dealing with the locals that it's your job to deal with, kind of thing. What else? Because of where he's at, he would report directly, basically, to the Emperor. He doesn't have another. Well, okay, that's not actually true. He would report to the Admiral, technically, because this is a military-held sector. The Admiral is his boss, which has got to just chap his ass. So that's also part of it. Yeah, I mean, what do you you can get in touch with you can get to like a local bar or cantina or something like that and hook up with a guy who is like a local palace guard if you got questions for him, and we can have that be happening.
Yeah.
Drala. Okay, what are you thinking about? What information are you gathering, you wily little flapper?
I was thinking about going and talking to some of my business contacts to see if there are any negotiations going on, because I figure a big party like this, there's bound to be some deals made.
Yeah, and just in terms of supplies,
Transactions.
who's skimming the good champagne off, or who's paying extra for it and stuff like that. Because yeah, you could get in as a supplier, or I mean, you are a merchant. You speak that language. You could theoretically set yourself up as sort of like a visiting entrepreneur and swing yourself. Ooh, you could maybe if you can hook up with somebody who's reasonably highly connected in terms of the supplies, might be able to swing yourself an invite. And that's a lot more likely to be swallowed as like some local person, invited you. The Empire is going to know who the guest list is for the Empire, but it's a lot more likely for you to be a guest coming in than it is for you to be hired help.
Yeah.
Because you're not kind of the locals that would be hired help. Margie's doing that. Mike, what are you up to?
I think right now Hesmet's going to be focusing on, just doing like geez, I just had the word in mind. He's going to be casing the joint basically from the outside and just sort of trying to get a layout of the building and B, a nice escape route set up with where he could plant explosives to kind of cause the most distraction for the escape route. Okay.
And some of that's going to come from information that the captain might be able to get for you in terms of like, well, when this sort of thing happens, here's what they do. You guys talk for just a little bit. I need to answer a call here real quick, and I will be right back.
Dun, dun, dun,
So I had to step away for a bit. You were talking to business contacts. What did we learn?
Nothing yet.
Okay.
Joyce just stepped away.
Okay.
Nope, it's time for the most exciting part of the session.
That's fine. Well, so let's talk about what our assets are. We have
A wheelbarrow.
we have the admiral staff. We have the wait staff, which you can potentially infiltrate. We have the friction between the admiral and the Grand Moff.
Let's say Kay might be able to get a invite for us as us, or at least covers through her business contacts.
Okay, so that's I think what I was asking was.
Maybe.
We also have a potential asset in that it sounded like Dardano hires off-worlders for important stuff. And those guys aren't going to have any particular loyalty to Onderon. It's potential that they can be bought. And it's possible that they may find hidden financial transactions or the rumor of it to be interesting incentive.
Certainly would be, especially if there's anybody there that possibly has any history with our embezzler.
Yeah. So we might consider looking for an avenue into Dardano's higher ranks through something like that.
Using the Empire against the Empire, perhaps.
Yep. Let's see what else we have. We have the Palace. The Palace is an interesting asset in that it's something that he doesn't want to leave, or it would be dangerous for him to leave, especially on a day where there's ambush or threat of ambush, where the insurgency is traditionally making their move. He's probably going to stay there, and that means that we can predict relatively easily where he's going to be, or at least we can move him around within there. Let me think what else we got. So aside from our assets, where are our problems? We have this big military force, which you got to deal with. We have the risk of detection, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
We're not sure what the admiral is going to do about this yet. Like if this was all just exposed to the public, what would happen? Well, we're not sure.
Right.
One of the things that I would like to see us be able to get on our exploration is, a firmer timeline of the activities that are really going on, not just the public ones, but the behind the scenes stuff, so that we will know, when we can make, when the room's not going to be occupied.
Yeah, if the Grand Moff is giving a speech at a particular time, that would be a good time in order to go, do nefarious things.
Are you looking for an itinerary for the Grand Moff, the Admiral? Anyone else?
Unless they have a handler, that would probably be it. Somebody like an assistant to Grand Moff most likely does.
Okay.
Some sort of adjutant or something along those lines.
Okay. So if we put out some feelers, like we were just saying, to get someone from his senior staff to help compromise his operation, we could get a hold of that secret itinerary. Like, he's going to be meeting with, so and so in room 37 while the party's going on. Stuff of that level of detail.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I'm back. Sorry about that.
Okay. We have a few possible directions to go, but let's get Dave up to speed.
Hi, Dave.
Hi, everybody.
Hey, you should have a character. So
I should.
you should. If you look at the chat log,
I see it.
there's Bill posted the sort of the 6 one-line sort of summaries of the different characters, and there's character sheets up in the character sheet section. He's playing Captain Treb. Private Hesmet, no boom today, boom tomorrow, is Mike's taking him, and then your family took the weirdo aliens. Surprising no one. So Kay is playing Drala, the Toydarian scoundrel, and Eric, the shapeshifter, is being played by Mike. So you've got kind of as your options there, Private Ghana, the force-sensitive mechanic ingenue, and Lieutenant Lanasa, the sly silver-tongued rogue.
Oh, I'll go for Private Ghana, the force-sensitive mechanic.
Okay.
And
I don't have much background on her, but I will.
Any.
What's that?
Any background.
Yeah, any. I don't have any background. I will make it so you can.
She's very private.
Yes,
Very.
I see that.
Not just Private Ghana, extremely Private Ghana. So yeah, my logic to that was it doesn't matter if I have a background, because as soon as it becomes evident that she's force sensitive, somebody will be like, yeah, I'll take her.
That's why my summary pretty much opened with that, just so you know.
Yeah. What's that?
My summary just opened with that, just to
force
get it done.
sensitive mechanic. So yeah, her bit is she's a bit of a gadgeteer, and then she has I feel the life of the planet in my eyes and hands. She's just not very good at it. She has it, but her rating in it is like a 1.
She's a P2.
Oh, it should be 2. Oh, that's right. No, I've got 2 2s there.
No, she's a P2.
Oh, she's a. Hang on 1 second. I need to close the door. So these guys are all resistance fighters on the planet of Onderon. They're not technically rebels. They're just people who have been constantly resisting occupying forces for about 30 years. I likened them to Poland in like the 80s. Except that they've been trained back during the Clone Wars as resistance fighters by the Jedi, who now, ironically, Anakin, who trained them, is now dealing with the headache of having resistance fighters that were trained by Jedi now that he's Vader. So in that sense, they're like the Afghani, or I guess Nicaragua never really came around and bit the U.S. in the ass much.
So we're the Mujahideen.
Yeah, sure. So, but they've been resistance fighters for ages, that kind of thing. Anyway, the bit is that the head of the resistance, Saw Gerrera, he's got slicers who have figured out that the Moth is channeling funds in some secret fashion. That's not that unusual, or really unusual at all with the Empire, to hide that sort of thing from the locals. But he appears to be hiding whatever he's doing with this money from both the locals and from the Empire. He doesn't get along with the Admiral, who's also nominally in charge of this sector, but he apparently is concealing some project that's taking a fair chunk of change away, concealing it from everybody. Gerrera would desperately like to know what this is, if only for leverage purposes. So he has sent you guys in. It's going to be Empire Day in a couple days. He wants you to get yourselves into the palace here and try to get into his private office suite and get access to his terminal so you can figure out what the heck it is he's got and then get out. In quietly, out loudly is fine as long as you don't get yourself killed. In loudly and out quietly is a little bit less likely, but we haven't taken anything off the table yet. And aside from all, and you guys have been picked because your group is sadly the most subtle team that the Resistance has available.
We are the best choice for the job.
Yeah. Framing,
Sadly.
and from a framing point of view, I wanted to make note that this is taking place 18 months prior to the activities that we were tuned in on with the stuff that was happening on Tatooine. So it's about 5.5 years before Alderaan, and about 8 or 9 years. I'm not doing the math right on that, but whatever. It's been about a little bit over a decade of Imperial occupation here on the planet, and about 15 years since the Empire was sort of officially founded. That's where we are. As a younger private, you have literally never known an Onderon that was occupied by some other forces.
Right.
So, there you go. And now we're in the city, kind of casing the thing. So the question then becomes, as you're prepping for this and gathering intel, what is it that you're doing? Treb is meeting up with one of the sort of resistance sympathizers who used to be a palace guard to get some information. Drala is trying to hook up with some of the merchants in the area who are doing supplies and high-end supplies, and might have some connections and stuff like that inside the palace for this. Eric is up on a third-floor balcony at a nice restaurant, sipping, a fruity local wine and watching the comings and goings of the palace and trying to figure out who she's going to copy when it comes time to put on a monkey suit and pretend to be a servant. And Mike is trying to figure out what parts of the palace will blow up best.
I was thinking more along the lines of, how many exits, who comes in and comes out, who gets stopped, those sort of things.
Where can I set off a small explosion and yet activate the most number of fire alarms at the same time?
That would definitely be part of this.
Oh. And it's worth noting, Bill was quick to check out that, or to make sure that there wasn't some sort of also going to be a resistance bombing of the party at the same time. And I wanted to make out. Gerrera does a lot of stuff. Yeah, Gerrera has been fighting these guys for a long time, and while he desperately hates bucketheads and droids and that sort of thing, he does have a very strict guideline of we fight the enemy, not our people. So civilian casualties are right out, and that sort of thing just doesn't happen. They might sabotage an Imperial parade, but they're not going to bomb it when there's civilians nearby, and they're not going to set off bombs in the middle of a ball because you end up with civilian casualties, and that's not how you win the hearts and minds of your people. Anyway, there you go. That's what we have. So Dave, you think about for a moment what you've done. No, I'm kidding. Think about what you would be doing in terms of prep for this. If there's somebody in the city you might know that you think can get you in as a servant or a temporary wait staff or get you an invite or whatever. We don't know anything about your family, so you can pretty much tell us whatever you want to, and I'll believe you. Also, if you want to tweak your character at all, if there's an aspect that you don't really think you're going to get a lot of mileage out of, do that.
Okay.
You should be able to edit your guy, girl, person. Wait, can you? You should be able to.
Did you assign him?
Yes, I did. So you should be able to edit very private Ghana. Treb.
Yeah.
Cantina. Old palace guard. By the name of Joaquin. That's the first thing that popped into my head. No, I'm kidding. He comes up, and he comes in fairly late after you. Still looks like he's a pretty good military trim, but he's definitely not. He's not currently in active service. And he's also he's sympathetic, but he's not part of the resistance. So he must just be keeping himself in shape for his own benefit. He sits down. Got word from Guerrero. You wanted to chat?
So, out of character, quick question: how much time do you want to devote to these pre-action interviews, and how much do you want to just gloss over?
As much as you. I mean, I want you guys to come up with. I'd like to be able to. I don't want to just hand wave and say, well, we're going to sneak in and make a bunch of dice rolls, and then sneak out and make some more dice rolls. So get an idea of. He's going to know theoretically protocols and stuff like that. He did serve since the Empire was there before they got rid of most of the locals.
Mm-hmm.
So he should be somewhat familiar with the protocols and that sort of thing. He might even have friends amongst the troopers. Possible.
That'd be great.
You just don't know.
Okay.
So, what do you need?
I'm so out of character. I'm briefly just going to give him the outline of our situation. We have this infiltration we need to do. I'm going to be very wary about watching his reaction to this, and make sure none of his friends are going to, none of his former friends still in there are going to get hurt.
Right. We'd like to know what would happen in the castle, in the palace, if certain, what's the protocol for an alarm?
Yeah.
If there's a bunch of visitors in, he's going to figure out you want to go there during the Empire Day ball, but
Yeah.
you don't have to. You keep it as vague as you can, just for the sake of deniability. If anything else, he wouldn't thank you to tell him too much.
But not only that, he may give us some information that gives us a new angle that we hadn't thought of, and that's why I didn't want to ask a very specific question like, can you give me the protocol at this time?
Right. Okay. So a few random things here that I'm. If you look at the picture of the palace there amongst the city,
Mm-hmm.
You don't have a great wall. You got line of sight, but you don't have there isn't a good wall around the palace. It's not super easily defensible. There are some roof-mounted, like a couple of defensive turrets in case of some sort of air attack, but not much. There are patrols up along the top balconies and stuff, but again, only a few. In the event of any kind of internal disturbance, the assumption is that may be a distraction for something coming externally. So what you tend to see is if there's some sort of anything weird happening inside, there's a sort of an internal lockdown, and then troops will go out to rooftop parapets, and as well as all the entrances and that sort of thing. But that sort of stuff tends to get locked down. For social events like this, it's a bit more of a nightmare, but they do try to confine people basically to the main ballroom and a couple, the dining hall, and On the back, so you see on the front of the building here, like right up here, that's sort of like the, I mean, that's actually his suite. I don't know if that's where his office suite is at, but that's the king's private chamber. So odds are the Moff's arrogant enough he might have taken those. But if you can imagine, on the back side of the building and about a floor and a half lower, there's more of a public, I don't want to say balcony because it's not big enough, but you know, a big open area to the back. So you could go up, basically you're in the main ballroom and you go up a couple of flights of curving stairs and you can walk out into the back and look out over the city and the jungle from back there.
You have to go somewhere to go after the masses.
Yes, yes. Well, they can do that from up here in the front too. But if you're gonna, you know, go out here and do the king wave to the, well, the Moff wave to the masses, you can do that more easily here. The one in the back, for the purposes of exposure to the public, is more private from the outside, but it's more accessible to the public from the inside because you can walk in from the ballroom and walk right up to that lower balcony. It's about at this level in the building, but on the backside. He doesn't have any close friends amongst the current guards, but he does know enough to know that they haven't really changed anything because everything kind of works. Onderon royalty has been defending the palace for quite some time, and you know, aside from not being able to hold the planet, they're pretty good at defending the actual king. So, well, the problem, they just don't have the manpower to defend against the Emperor. They're in the inner rim, so I mean, the military's full military, the Empire's full military might is literally next door. So, I mean, it's like Poland, you know, you can get steamrolled by basically everybody around you because everybody nearby is better armed than you. But the defenses are in place. So what the guy basically tells you, he feels at least, is likely to be how they're going to run things. You know, unless there's some sort of specific imperial protocol. Okay. There may be, because apparently there's an imperial, an ISD agent here that's been brought. Apparently, he just got here like a couple of weeks ago. He hasn't really done anything yet, but apparently he's gearing up to. The intelligence age, I guess the ISD is like the Imperial, what do you call it, Security Division or something like that.
Yeah.
But they tend to come in and take charge of forces and that kind of thing. And apparently he's been brought in to sort of address this whole resistance problem. And apparently he's around, so who knows what that's going to do in terms of what he may have suddenly made this thing into a real monkey nest of different protocols and stuff like that.
Okay.
Agent Callus is his name.
Callous.
Kallus. What's that?
I just think it's funny. All right, so good enough.
Yeah.
I was hoping to fish maybe another name out of him by saying, like, is there anyone in the palace that you'd be concerned about getting hurt? But if he doesn't really have any active friends there right now, that's fine.
No, I mean, between you and me, I'm not in contact with them as much for me as it is for them. I'm not going to miss anybody in there. It's fine. Watch out for this. I mean, the Imperial agents, they don't get brought in because they're warm, fuzzy people. They get brought in to solve problems, and they don't. So, and they have a nose for weird. So, try not to be too weird when you're in there. Unusual.
All right.
Non-standard. Anyway. And let's talk merchants. So, Drala, my Toydarian friend. You were looking for kind of a sort of an in with the merchants to figure out some sort or well, how do you want to present this? Are you just looking for information, or are you going to walk in here? Because these guys may not have actually known you were around, but you know there's some people on the planet that do business. Do you want to come in
Good
conning
business
them?
or sketchy business?
What's that?
Good business or sketchy business?
Pick. Really, it's sort of up to you. What I'm wondering is, do you want to present yourself to them as, do you want to start a con on these guys like from here and say, I would like to get in there and talk to them off and then certain hoi polloi and kind of get myself hooked up with these folks. Can you get me in the door so I can start establishing things? And if you do, I could line you up for a 10% off the top of the profits. Something like that. Or do you want to just get an idea of what's going in and out of the palace so you can figure out how to piggyback on that? How do you want to play? Because you could do it either way, and it would work just fine. Well, as fine as it could. You can present yourself. I mean, you have
more what's going in and out of the palace.
Okay. It's nothing too unusual in terms of the supplies. I mean, this is a pretty straightforward, ball for the mostly Empire, and then the friendliest of the the Empire friendliest of the high-end families and names and faces and stuff on Onderon that are still playing ball with the Empire, haven't gotten themselves, in trouble. So it's a lot of, foodstuffs, party stuffs, 2 bands, apparently. One of them is being shipped in from Coruscant and one that's local, that apparently is like opening for the Empire band or something. Before things have to get official, and we got to make sure that we get the Imperial Death March correct.
It's always a party favorite.
Dun, dun, dun. It's really hard to dance to. That is hard to dance to. But it is it's the processional. It's the Imperial processional. Anyway, so you've got that. Nothing. Well. Nothing too weird. There's been a fair number of a couple of people fired out of the castle that used to be procurement people for the castle that aren't working there. They just flat out aren't working there anymore, and that's been just in the last couple of weeks. A couple of them got fired. A couple of them just don't seem to be around anymore. So. Yeah, they're out of contact, whatever that means. There's some whispers that the locals are saying Inquisitor, but that means something different to different people. But the Moff's got a new enforcer in there who's cracking heads and taking names and literally taking down names and putting them into a scary database and stuff like that. So. Want to try and line something up, or are you just going to sit on that for a little bit and figure out what you want to do with the information? Because there are definitely people that you know that are doing some of the supplies and stuff like that. They've got contacts with those names. You can easily present yourself as sort of a representative of a Hutt cartel because you worked there for so long. You worked in that area for so long. So if you want to come in that way. That's certainly an option because there's a lot of stuff in Hutt space that you can get that you can't get easily in the Empire that the Empire still wants.
Yeah, I think
whether it's
especially
legal
because that goes along with the whole out of planet.
Okay.
Which,
I mean, if you want to, okay, so do this. Let me look at your character sheet here. Why don't you give me why don't you give me a roll for Have I Got a Deal for You? Blink.
Look.
For a 3. Very nice. One of your... No, I'm going to say the top end, less savory individual that you've talked... that you've... that you've talked with today. Kind of a amphibian guy by the name of Lepido. Apparently the Moth's wife has a spice habit that she's...
The spice must flow.
The spice must flow. She has a spice habit, and she likes the good stuff, and she can't even get the bad stuff these days because she's with the Grand Moff, and she's got to play it straight, and the Admiral is kind of watching everything, so she can't really, hang her husband out to dry. But he knows that there have been a number of not too subtle queries being made around the city on the, being made by handmaidens sent out to procure a colorful scarf, who are then finding themselves in shadier parts of town trying to find somebody who can get that sort of thing. And so the feelers are out, and the feelers are scrambling somewhat desperately through the city. So perhaps presenting yourself as a slightly a hut-based merchant with a slightly dingy reputation might get you in an interesting conversation with the Moff's wife. Lucella. Lucella. In fact, he might even be able to procure you an invite if he lets it be known that he might have somebody who can meet that need. So you might be able to get in the front door as a foreign entrepreneur.
Okay.
So I'll let you. That's just grist. You guys might use that or not. We got here. Hesmet. Anything specific you want to know, or are you just gathering up the information? Because once you combine this with what Bill's gathered up, you can probably get a pretty good idea of that kind of stuff. Certainly the stormtroopers are watching things pretty carefully.
Yeah, I just kind of wanted to see who, if there were people coming coming and leaving regularly, and where they were coming and leaving from, that sort of thing.
There isn't like a list of people so much. Everybody's apparently got sort of temporary issued cards that the troopers at the servants' entrance and stuff can scan. If there's any problem that they've run into, and there are, because guys lose stuff or they get damaged, or they're just cheap temp badges basically, they call out the head of the kitchen staff or something like that. And Margie, you've noticed this too. If there's a technical problem, these troopers' first move isn't to call the captain, it's to call the local, the nearest
in-house staff
and say, is this guy, should he be in here? And then they, yell at him for not having the card, and then they let him in. And then they yell at the head of the kitchen staff, say, get him a new card when he's in there. Go find so-and-so.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, that is. But it certainly potentially there's definitely a hole there because they're not, and that might change as things get closer to the day. But things are so nutty right now that they're not. If they stopped everybody and turned they wouldn't get the food in. So one would assume that they've been yelled at more recently about holding up the preparations than they have been yelled at for letting people into the palace that shouldn't be there. And so they're working with whatever they've been yelled at about most recently. So you've got that information to go with.
Yes.
Dave, what are you doing? Or I should say, Ghana, what are you doing?
I'm sorry. My mic keeps cutting in and out. Okay, so Ghana comes from a long line of mechanics, repairmen. Her family, her relatives. She's expected to be a repair person. Certainly been trained that way. Her family's very apolitical. We're fixers. We fix things. We don't blow things up, except clogs. Bad clogs.
Yeah, I like it.
And her sort of new involvement in the resistance has made her a bit unreliable as far as they're concerned. Alongside her habit of taking long walks in the marketplace and in parks and taking it all in. So her family thinks she's a flake that will never amount to anything.
Hey, Margie.
She has a...
Wait 1 second, Dave. Margie, can you mute? Because I'm getting Dave through both mics.
I should be muted, but I will do so in...
You flip your headphone up?
Yeah, that's where I was. Okay.
There you go.
Yay.
Okay,
So...
yeah.
That's much better.
Yes, thank you.
If I talk too loudly, you can hear me on Catherine's mic upstairs. Okay, so fortunately, she's got a friend, Dag, whose family company is contracted with the Moth's household, Palace.
Okay.
Doing stuff. So my idea is, you
cut out there for a second, Dave. Wait. Your mic went crazy. Repeat
Hello?
all after incinerator. No, sorry.
What?
Can
you hear me now?
The last thing I heard was, so my idea is, and it sounded very juicy, and then I didn't get anything else.
So my idea is, Dag, if we could go break into the go to the palace. I can be your apprentice, and we're there for this inspection of the sonic ovens, which are way overdue for an inspection. And certainly the Grand Moff wouldn't want his frozen canapes still frozen. And that'll get me into the palace.
Okay. Certainly, Dag can get you into the palace. What you end up doing with that information is, well, that's why the captain's the man with the plan. Because then the question becomes, then what? Although, the idea, I have to say, the idea of breaking something or making something work, but breaking something so that then causes a chain reaction of various responses within the palace is also potentially
Oh, yeah, we could do that, too, yeah.
The best part of any plan like this is to push the situation into one that is very predictable.
Right.
In a predictable state, and you can get ahead of that state, then we'll get away with this.
So to sum up, we've got Explosion Guy, who's actually spotted a nice little loophole in the fact that the stormtroopers are basically at wit's end in terms of keeping track of who's coming in and out in terms of the work staff. Ghana sort of, in talking about this is how I can get in, also kind of gives the idea of well, yeah, we could break the right kind of thing. We can get, certain kinds of reactions happening. Certainly it's a distraction. And it's not an explosion distraction. It's a, why is it so hot in the ballroom? What's wrong with the kind of, you can do a lot of stuff there. Or if you, why? Oh, it's so hot in the ballroom. Everybody ends up out on the balcony, in the back because it's just, even the jungle air is better than whatever's going on inside. That kind of thing. So there's an option there. The Claudite, of course, can be anybody that she can have seen. So that option is on the table, or a useful tool. And we have information from the captain about probably most of the protocols that are being followed in terms of what the security is like, what the responses are likely to be, and Bill, I'm kind of putting it in your lap. If you want a protocol to be a certain thing and it makes sense, then that is one of the things that the guy told you. Because I'm not going to make up every bloody protocol. Because that's
well, what you've outlined makes sense from the perspective of the situation here.
Yeah.
The only thing that I'm not certain on is if the insurgency has been such a problem for such a long time, why they are looking outwards rather than inwards. But I would, as GM in this situation, I would just say, well, a couple of years ago, somebody actually tried to raid the palace with an air vehicle, and that's why.
Yeah.
And that's an easy fix for that question.
That's been one of the things that's happened in the past. They know, or they have at least detected, that you don't generally get, for better or worse, the Empire doesn't worry a lot about indiscriminate bombing here because of the fact that there's never any indiscriminate bombing here, because it's just not a move that the Resistance does. You do get targeted attacks.
Is there? Well, here's a question for our demo guy then.
Mm-hmm.
Is it possible to make something that everyone thinks is a devastating explosion, which is not?
Well,
Can we get the blast? Can we get the sound of a blast? Can we get the smoke, but not actually put civilians at risk?
Oh, yeah. You do a bomb that has a bunch of accelerant but doesn't have a lot of shrapnel to it.
Okay. So we could change their game a little bit. We could throw them off of their expectations using something like that. Okay, so I'll keep that in mind. There's a couple, actually 3 big unanswered questions here that I think we need to figure out next, which is, first, what's the Admiral going to do? Where is he and/or his proxies and deputies and authority? What part is he going to be playing in this? This ISD agent, Callus, what's his game, even in a broad sense? And then finally, is this private terminal where this guy's records are held, are they actually going to be in what everyone thinks is his office, or does he maybe have like a side room or something like that where he keeps this stuff? So I don't think that it's necessarily going to end with, us breaking into this one particular room and everything just going smoothly.
Right.
I almost think that we need to get our guy to go to his terminal. We need to get Dardano to sort of lead us to where we need to be, and I'm still thinking through how to do that.
I mean, making him think that it's at risk.
Yeah.
Could get him to go and double check it.
Yeah, like if he was told by a reliable source, hey, someone's tapping your bank account. If he thought there was a slicer, in the area. For example, if somebody told him, or if he got a report, hey, there's this professional slicer team that broke into the palace on this day, they're in the basement.
Okay. Yeah, that would absolutely. That is certainly one of the things that we, and like I said, and Dave, you missed this part, but what I said is sort of the Italian job by way of Star Wars. The sort of the setup here. So it's a bit of a caper. The Admiral, where did I put his name at? Admiral Corlin. So Dardano is younger, or older, sorry. Dardano is older. He has... I'm just throwing... This is going to be fun because I want to see what you guys do with this. So he's older, and he's always been the guy who gets the out-of-the-way planet. He's never been... This is his first station as a Grand Moff. And it's a big deal because he's served with distinction, served reliably for the last 15 years, and he's served in difficult situations. The Empire's move still, at this point, and it will be until Onderon goes kaflooey, is, and the Senate gets disbanded, is to let the local governors handle local governance. Moffs do not generally take stuff over except in difficult situations. So they tend to be the governors that get the real, if you'll pardon my French, especially Catherine, The real shit shows that are just going to be troubles from the word go. So, and he is served well, if not scintillatingly, as a Moff, inspirationally in those situations. So this is a big deal for him because he's not only being put, I mean, granted, he's still being put in charge of a difficult planet, but he's familiar with that. He knows the moves that tend to get planets in line. And it's a big deal because he's close to the homeworlds. He's close to the eye of the Emperor. He's a Grand Moff now. He's later in his career, but he's finally, really coming into his thing. He's got a pretty third wife, a lot younger than him. Things are going well if he can just get things under control. He hasn't. He's the third Moff that's been stationed here. He's been here for 3 years, and there has not been a lot of movement. He's had no more success with the Resistance than he has before. And now you have the ISD agent that's been, on ground. You can imagine in that situation what's going on. The Admiral is one of the young bucks that's come up. So he's not somebody who's a Clone War vet. He is somebody who has come up into the Admiralty and gotten himself in charge of a Star Destroyer and all the firepower that goes along with this since, within the last 5 years.
He's a product of the Empire. Basically.
What's that?
He's a product of the Empire.
He is absolutely a product of the Empire, full stop. And his military, what military achievements he's had have entirely been at the hands of pirates, or at the cost of pirates, and a few Resistance things, but mostly it's pirate stuff. It's interesting, and
Bush League.
It's an interesting thing. You don't know exactly what this indicates. He is technically an admiral. He is technically stationed in a very, very busy sector because there's 2 major hyperspace lanes in here, and he's the guy. He is the next guy below the Emperor who's going to be dealing with this kind of stuff. Is it because he's a genius, or is he being kept close to home because he can't be trusted out on the Outer Rim? Probably it's because he's good and reliable. He's also young, and he's technically the person that the Moff reports to, and that's got to chap the old guy's ass because he's finally come into his own, and he's got to report to this. What is he, 30? If that. A lot of young. I mean, you talk about the guy that's flying around the Imperial Star Destroyer and the Rebel stuff. The guy's barely in his 30s. There's a lot of young commanders of Star Destroyers right now because the old guard is all on the Emperor's advisory committees or working on this super secret projects of super Star Destroyers and these other ridiculous projects. So there's holes there, and plus we have the rumor of the wife being a bit of a spice fiend and other things like that. So I don't know if that's everything that you need there, Bill, but I'm trying to give you some information there in terms of what you can sort of project from that how he's likely to respond to certain things. This is. If you put yourself in his shoes, it's a guy who's potentially in a lot of stress because he's got and the Admiral's going to be coming down. The Admiral's going to be probably condescending. Oh, that's kind of a cheap shot to say that an Imperial is going to be condescending, but it's like the old man's holding a party in his honor kind of thing. Yep. You could play it like that if you wanted to. So he's got that coming. He's got the party. The Resistance isn't making him. Now you got an Imperial. Got the ISD guy is everywhere in his city and in his castle and doing stuff and firing people that he liked, and or disappearing people that he was relying on. And he's got to be. And you do know he's doing something that he doesn't want the Empire to know. So what if the guy is here for that?
Yeah.
Another problem. So that guy's under a lot of stress, and he's likely to rabbit or react impulsively. with not a lot of provocation, which is good news for you if you can figure out how to impulse him the right direction.
That's what I'm trying to figure out.
Yeah, it's just how do you push that button? You think, I mean, okay. In theory, any indication that whatever he's got going on clandestinely is going to come into the light is going to put him in full-blown panic mode.
Yeah.
And he's not the kind of guy who can just like disappear off the planet. He doesn't know how to do that aside from anything else. So he's going to move to protect what he's doing. So there you go.
Okay.
I think it's clear that we're not gonna have the caper, but we can certainly get all of our prep work up and figure out what we're going to do. And then the part 2 will be next session.
Okay. There's one other thing.
Part 2, how things went horribly wrong.
Yes. I hope so.
There's one other prep that we could go for that I think we discussed while you had stepped away earlier.
Mm-hmm.
It would be really handy to have Dardano's private itinerary, not just, I'll be on the stage waving at 9 o'clock, but things like I'm meeting with, my chief spy in room 37 at, 15 minutes after that. And we thought about a way to get that if Dardano has made a habit of hiring off-world people, which is something I heard you say earlier.
Yeah, frequently Imperials, but not just that. Just reliable people from off-world is if he's got to go with something close by, he tends to do that. If he has to, and it's a short order kind of thing, it's local. But yeah, he'll get somebody off-world. So what do you want to do with that?
What we're looking for is somebody who is not an Imperial loyalist, who is off-world, somebody who doesn't have a loyalty to Onderon, and therefore wouldn't really necessarily mind betraying him in a small matter.
Okay.
What we're hoping to get from that person is just like a copy of this itinerary. And we can possibly do that by, for example, masquerading as this ISD agent's, special operatives. Like, what's he going to do? Go to Callus and be like, "Hey, are these your guys?" He's like, "No." Well, he'd say that anyway. That's
Right.
a very tricky thing to set up. We could probably come up with any number of other better cons or cover stories for that. But somehow getting a sense of where he's going to be at every moment seems like it could be done through one of these guys if we can find a candidate.
Right. Okay.
And if you want to take time to think about it, we can put that off.
Well, the guy is a Corellian, and I can't. I've got. I don't want to dig up the thing because every time I open up a screen, something gets weird over here. But there's a Corellian. You can make that note. Who's been working? Well, no, he's been in the palace. He's a businessman. He is he does contract shipping and construction, and he's been really around the palace a lot, which is weird because he doesn't seem to be doing anything.
Mm-hmm.
But he comes and goes a lot. He's been shipping a lot of stuff back and forth. Apparently he's, bringing it. You don't really know for what. That's not super clear. But you've been around the world. You've been around the galaxy a bit. You served lots of places. When you think about somebody who's willing to betray somebody in a small way, I'm not gonna say you immediately think of Corellia, but it's not far off the mark.
On my short list.
Yeah, you feel like you could maybe get some mileage there. And he's also in and out of the palace a lot. He doesn't actually stay there. He's got rooms of his own in town, so you might be able to set up some sort of deal with him there. I'd really like to find some time to talk with him about X businessman to businessman kind of deal. If you have any idea like where he's going to be and when during this thing, some place where I can kind of corner him on a balcony and get 5 seconds of his time where he's not going to be constantly distracted by somebody, that would be, I would owe you, well, more money than you can. No.
Yeah, that's probably a conversation that Drala would better be having than Treb, but yes, as
sure.
long as you can talk to him.
Drala or Eric, for that matter, depending on how Eric presents him or herself.
Oh, that's a good point.
if Eric's suddenly a slinky fellow Corellian who's being charming and Bond girly, across the table at a nice restaurant, then you get some mileage out of that as well. So.
Actually, I think Eric would be the better choice in case we need to impersonate this guy later.
And yeah, an itinerary and a disappeared Corellian who's sleeping off a drug haze in a bathtub somewhere for a couple of days while you guys are the Corellian. There are a hell of a lot worse ideas. I like that.
All right.
That's an idea with some legs.
That is sufficiently sneaky right there.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we've got a Corellian that we might be able to impersonate who also might have information about the guy's itinerary. We know that he's under a lot of stress.
Mm-hmm.
We've got a ISD agent who may have people under his command, and he's not been here long enough for everybody to know everybody under his command, so you may be able to just sort of bluff your way in saying, I'm with Callus.
Yep.
And
not even say it, just sort of, insinuate it.
Yeah, exactly. In such a way, and it's not the kind of guy where you double check because you're just going to tick him off, and who wants to tick off an ISD agent?
Yep.
Where was I at? Let me see what else we got. Any number of ideas there and protocols with our two gadgetologists / explosion people in terms of how we can cause there to be stress and or malfunctions in the building.
Mm-hmm.
I can do that.
Yeah, that can cause... Yeah, exactly. You and also Hesmet have the capacity for doing a fair amount of harm. Hesmet's also got studied the schematics and protocols. This is actually kind of runs kind of parallel to that whole regulations are next to godliness kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
In the studied the schematics, twice per session you may use I know the Empire instead of any other aspect when acting against the Empire thanks to your extensive studies of their methods. You know how these guys work, so that is a kind of a good thing. And also, I like once per session, produce a small device that lets you instantly succeed with style on an overcome.
I did like that.
Yeah, you're gonna at some point in time. There's gonna be a door that's just like, take me, I'm yours.
Bill, really quick. You said at one point you wanted to get everything into a sort of predictable scenario.
Yeah.
Would the whole palace on lockdown be that?
That's pretty much the only scenario I can imagine. And furthermore, I'm thinking about where there's probably going to be internal patrols just to verify the lockdown is effective. If they come into Dardano's room and they see a bunch of weirdos hunched over this data terminal, how are they going to react? Ideally, they'll come in, see people they were expecting to see in there, thus. And then move on. So thinking about that angle as well is something I'm still hashing out.
Okay. I mean, my whole thing is, if you want a kind of quick and dirty way to put the entire palace on lockdown, it looks like this whole city has a wall around it. If I'm going by the picture, right?
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yeah, that's fair. It's a very heavily jungled planet, and there's predators galore. So yeah, walls are definitely indicated for the city. Yeah.
Well, what I was thinking was it would not be terribly hard to put some very flashy but very much not damaging, explosive devices on the outside of those walls to gather everybody's attention.
Yep.
Especially if you put like 5 or 6 of them and have them go off at different areas at random intervals.
Yeah.
So.
And that definitely locks down the outside wall. The main thing with the lockdown is making sure that however you guys are presenting yourself within the palace, you're still somebody who can move around the lockdown.
There's something that I don't think we've considered yet, which is Dardano's wife. Let me jump back to...
Oh, yeah, that's the other thing.
She can probably move more freely than anyone, and we have one definite piece of leverage over her, which is the spice habit.
Right.
Mhm.
If you, for example, could construct a scenario where we make contact with her posing as, Callus or somebody representing Callus and say, we're going to overlook your spice habit if you help us get your husband's secret records. Here's a device. Plug it into his terminal.
Ooh.
And they haven't been married in a
shady.
long time. They've been married like 2.5 years. I mean, they've been married since he's been Grand Moff.
Sufficiently shady.
Yeah. So you've got an angle in as the Corellian who may be close enough to the Moff to shadow the Moff, depending on what's going on.
If we can tackle him from spotting his wife as she moves on our behalf, for example, that would be a good.
Oh yeah.
Well,
I mean, the Corellian can keep
to
him
be
pinned down.
honest, we don't even need to corrupt the wife. We just need to get her out of the way, and I can be the wife.
That would also.
Here's an alternative to that. This is just me going off the top of my head. If we have Margie replace the Corellian, at that point we basically kind of have a handler on the Moth.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Somebody who can basically radio us in if there's any sort of changes, anything like that.
And he
If-
can also sort of be the channel of, if you need him to believe that something bad is happening, you can have the Corellian find out about it or hear about it or get a call about it or something.
Yeah.
In a way that the Moth then goes, oh my God, and totally trust this guy, because why wouldn't you? If he's like, you have to look out, something's happening, I heard about blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, if Kay kind of becomes the wife's new best friend because, hey, we're going to get you some I'm working on behalf of somebody, here's some spice.
You know what you do, or here's another option is, so you're working out the deal, and that's good. Kay's there, Drala's there, and you're working out the thing, and you've got her off in like a private room or out on the balcony, blah blah blah, and you're working, you're setting her up, you're sliding her over a little test packet of the spice. She's practically safe, and then Callus's guys catch her.
Or Callus's guys.
Yeah, Callus's guys catch her, literally red-handed, from the spice, and so yeah, you set her up for that. So then she's really scrambling to not end up in an Imperial prison somewhere, getting interrogated or outed or whatever.
So we put the fear of Palpatine into her and get her to
fear of
follow
Palpatine.
the program through fear.
Ooh, you know who can fake being an Inquisitor really good? Somebody who can levitate stuff.
Yeah.
Dave.
Me?
I'm sure with sufficient concentration.
You're the classic bad Force user in the sense of like developing it exactly the wrong way. The only stunt that you have for Force use is the thing where you get a good roll on picking up stuff.
Picking up stuff. Things that roll underneath other things, things that have fallen down into cracks.
Or if you just need to really put the fear of God in somebody, and convince them that you're, one of Callus's special agents, picking somebody up, picking up a table, picking up a chair, or anything like that to really kind of spook somebody, that works pretty good too. But yeah, classic old West End game things. You had 3 Force skills: control, you want that one highest; sense for figuring out the Ooga Booga; and alter, which is what everybody really wanted because it was let you do all the TK. And if you were a bad Jedi or a bad Jedi in training, you always had alter higher than everything else, and control was like, whatever. And this is how she is kind of thing. The thing that she's actually got I mean, come on! If you could levitate stuff, wouldn't that be the thing that you would like?
Absolutely. Like I said, stuff that things that need to be lifted to be accessed, stuff that rolls underneath other things,
I just need
things
that
that
wrench.
fall down to cracks.
I need the wrench.
I need that wrench, and no one can hand me the wrench. The wrench.
Love the wrench. Anyway, so yeah, I love the idea of like basically putting her into a situation where she gets caught by Callus's guys. That's.
So the plan
fun.
that I've heard has 4 steps, which is lure Lucella into a spice deal, stage a fake bust and turn her, immunity in exchange for getting Dardano's files. Infiltrate the palace. The Corellian or our Corellian will tackle Dardano, and then Lucella will get access to the files.
Oh, you want to sting Lucella before the party even gets going?
Yeah. We do the first two steps well before that. And the reason I don't think that imitating Lucella is a good idea is that unless the imitation comes with what she knows, which I don't think it will, based on what I saw, she's going to have access codes. She's going to know locations. She's going to have that knowledge in her head to do the thing that we need to do.
Yeah. The Corellian will be tricky, but depending on how much time you talk to him before you decide to put him in a bathtub somewhere for for 12 hours, you're going to be able to fake it a lot better with the guy.
Yeah.
And the Corellians, they're not exactly. They tend to be a little bit more superficial, at least in appearance. So if he's being flippant at a party, let the Moff see you drinking a little bit, and and then when you start panicking because I just received word that this bounty hunter just landed, or whatever, not bounty hunter, but something like that.
Whatever, yeah.
Slicer for hire. Why would there be a slicer coming in for, something? I don't know. You have to figure out what kind of information you want to feed them off to panic him in the right direction. And you may not need to. It's if you're just trying to keep them off out of your way. He just needs to. You're right. He's a handler because getting to the Moff's place office is sort of where you're aiming the wife at. Whether or not she has access to the office suite as opposed to the private suites, who knows? Yeah. Maybe they're the same thing. Whatever. But
there is a time for Eric to emulate Lucella, which is to let Dardano see her during the lockdown. Like when we have everything in place, he needs to think that she's where she's not, but he can't interact with her.
So Joyce, I hate to be the downer here, but Catherine has her PSAT test tomorrow, so we need to.
That's fine, and actually, I didn't expect this. We have great plans, and we have a week to sit here with you guys going, oh, wait a minute, what if we do that? So, by all means, start up another chat thing on the...
I'm actually going to post to the community with the notes that I have. And
do, and then you guys can brainstorm, and I can answer questions if you have more questions and stuff, and we'll just kind of do some of this a little bit offline. Okay, good luck on the PSATs.
Yeah, good luck.
I have fond memories of that. Myself personally, so because it paid for my college, so.
Oh, you were one of those.
I was one of those. I apparently, to quote Oz from Buffy the Vampire Slayer, I test really well, I guess.
I did too, but it didn't help me.
Yeah, there was a thing. There was a fairly local college I have no problem with. That was like. I did really well in the semis, and before the final thing that they do when you actually take the SATs, they're like, if you decide on us now, before you take the finals, we'll basically give you a full ride, but you have to decide before you take your finals. And it was kind of like, I don't know how I'm going to actually do on the real. It turned out I could have gotten a really pretty good deal from another college, afterwards, but I didn't know that. So I was like, yeah, sure, I'll go to the state college. I have no dignity. I'm happy with that college. I like the town. Blah blah blah. So I did that gig, and it worked out. Whatever. I am gainfully employed and got my English degree that seems to be serving me in reasonably good stead. All right, kiddos, we're gonna wrap things up. Let Catherine get her brain sleep and all that kind of good stuff. Bill's going to post some stuff, good stuff. No dice rolled whatsoever, so I have no idea. No, that's not true. Catherine rolled one. So we have no idea about this whole rolling the aspects thing exactly, but I get a sneaking suspicion we're going to have lots of chances to test that out next time. If you guys have questions, anything like that, I'll be lurking on the other thing and looking at the thread and rubbing my hands together excitedly, and we will pick this thing up next week.
Sounds good.
Awesome.
Excellent.
All right, I'm going to stop this broadcast.